another Ravens drama filled week and Ravens report card grades on this episode of the Purple Rain Report. Yes, thank you for coming through to another installment, another edition of the Purple Rain Report. Thank you very much for spending
Yeah.
your morning, afternoon, evening, or midnight snack with us. We really appreciate it. We truly appreciate it. Means the world even in this off season. Where as for the Ravens, it hasn't been the best of off seasons yet. I'm gonna leave it there. Still got time to cook, but you can follow us on Instagram at the Purple Rain Podcast. This guy right here, IGX Sutton Def. Me, IG simply as10.prod, X simply as10. Most importantly, Manscaped. Use code PRP for 20% off your whole order and free international shipping. The best deal on the internet. But the weekend has passed. 1 week closer to free agency, where I think the legal tampering period starts a week from today. So there will be a lot
Ooh.
of news with that. Maybe go live. Maybe depending what we do,
Mm.
might go live next week. Kind of
Yeah.
break all that
Yeah.
down. Then we have obviously the draft, pro days, combine was this weekend. Didn't watch much of it, saw some stuff, but of course, there's Ravens news. So, got to ask you first and foremost, how was your weekend? How are we doing?
Weekend was great, very productive, very relaxing, all the same as well. So that's always good. But talking about the weekend, and I guess we can just kind of jump right into the Ravens topics for the episode of the show. Friday night, it was late Friday night. There was a tweet on the old Twitter sphere, formerly known as the Twitter sphere, now known as Xland or whatever you want to call it. Uh, Odafe Oweh, Ravens edge rusher Odafe Oweh made a cryptic post on X with just a single peace sign emoji, which immediately sent the fan base into a frenzy. And it's the off season, so of course people are gonna want to talk about sort of things. I kind of took it with a grain of salt because you just never know what's going on in these athletes' personal lives, for one thing. But where I did have to check myself on that a little bit is the fact that once I realized that was Odafe Oweh's first tweet in 3 years. Okay. So some clearly drove him to pick up his phone, unlock it, open up X, and queue up a tweet, queue up a post, right? So he knows in his mind he has not done in 3 years. Something literally, like something had to be on his mind. Something had to be on his heart for him to go ahead. And so not only was it the peace sign emoji, he also followed that up with saying, "Man, I hope not. Dot dot dot. But God's plan always wins." So I mean, the combination of those two things, right? Is he saying the peace emoji like, "Oh, peace out to Baltimore. He might be out of here soon," or is he also saying, "I hope not," like saying, like, "Oh, I hope I'm not getting shipped out of Baltimore. I hope I'm not being traded potentially." Alex, I want to get your assessment on it. If you're watching live right now, not watching live. If you're watching the recording of this, I'm so used to saying live. We will be back on the live soon, guys. Don't worry. But if you're watching this episode right now, comment down below what you thought Odafe meant by his cryptic messages. Do you think that it means that he's on his way out of Baltimore, or do you think that it's just something that we shouldn't really be taking too much, putting too much stock into? Alex, what did you think?
Yeah, I saw it too, and I'm just like, here we go, man. The cryptic tweets, and I'm glad we kind of have the same thought process. It's not really tweeting it; it's the action of going through it. Kind of like how we mentioned when Tyus Bowser opened up his phone, recorded a fire Greg Roman,
Yeah,
little piece of paper outside of the Ravens facility. Watched it, commented on it, and posted. It's the action of doing it, and I'm just kind
yeah,
of sitting back, wondering, thinking like it can't be about money because that fifth year option is 13.251 million. Now, with that being said, you are going to be making that next year unless you get extended. And if you're not going to get extended, I mean that's a really nice payday for a guy who just amassed 10 sacks for the first time in his career. So I'm not really
yes,
too worried about it. I think if we were to let him go, we would get somebody back in return, trade wise, because there's so much potential left in Odafe Oweh. But I'm not really that worried. It's just that classic, Twitter fingers. But I want to know if you're the same reasoning as me. I can't really put too much into it.
I'm gonna be honest with you, bro. I think Odafe Oweh is on the trading block. And I think that everything that we heard last week from Eric DaCosta, John Harbaugh, when they spoke at their pressers, I think that that was a big, what they like to call liar's luncheon. And
Mm.
like there was a lot of smoke screens thrown out there. EDC saying, "Oh yeah, we're not really looking to make a whole lot of big splashes. We like our draft picks. We're gonna go ahead into the draft." I don't think that's the mindset of this team right now, or this front office rather. I think that there is a big change coming. That could look like Owe being shipped out of Baltimore, and us getting maybe more picks out of that, or maybe a starting caliber. But who knows? But my thing is this, Alex, you just mentioned that Odafe Owe is coming off of the best season of his career. 10 sacks, a forced fumble. I just found out today that Odafe Owe has more career postseason sacks than TJ Watt. 2-1 is the numbers. Very, very interesting stuff. Right? I was taken aback when I saw that too. But the fact of the matter is, in the absolute biggest moments, right? At a premium position like edge rusher, you want your premier guy who is supposed to be a young phenom, Odafe Owe, right? You want your premier guy, especially when his colleagues are the likes of Miles Garrett, who's on his way out of the division. I know T.J. Watt, who I just mentioned, Hendrickson, and guys like that. You know what I mean? Like when you have that type of competition stacked against you, a 10 sack season is not enough, right? And I will say this: I'm grateful. I'm very grateful for Odafe Owe amassing 10 sacks finally. I think in his fourth season, very grateful for it. But at the same time, that's not he's not untradeable, right? He's not untouchable. He's not one of the untouchable players, right? If you have a TJ Watt, like the Steelers, he's untouchable. TJ Watt is untouchable, right? Miles Garrett was going to be untouchable for the Browns until he came out and publicly said, like, "Hey, look, I want a trade. I want out of here." But the point is this: at such a premium position like edge rusher, you can always upgrade. You can always upgrade there unless you have one of those up echelon top tier guys. And if I'm being honest with you guys, Dafe Owe is not that, because if he was in the biggest moments on a lot of these third and longs against these high octane offenses, these super talented mobile quarterbacks, we would see him be making more plays in spot. But the fact of the matter is, we just don't. We just don't. So again, I don't know. I want to toss it back to you with that. While I do appreciate the numbers that he just put up last season, he's not untradeable, right? And I feel like he might be part of some sort of package that kind of sparks the this Ravens offseason and kind of gets us back to that. Yeah, we're trying to make big moves to try to eclipse this window we have here. So what do you think about that?
And you know what? When you say big moves, why not swap Penn State edge rusher for Penn State edge rusher? Micah Parsons. His name
Mm,
has been thrown in
yeah,
there as, maybe he's looking on his way out because we look at the Cowboys and kind of their future. What is there to be excited about? Um, they don't have a running back. Obviously, Dak and CD, but Dak's about to get another contract, I think. Defensively, they kind of just collapse, it feels like. So he might want to go somewhere else. And you look at the Ravens. Yeah, we started off bad defensively, but I feel like we have the pieces. When you become untouchable, real quick, let's just name the untouchables in the Ravens. I mean, to me, maybe you
yeah,
can fit them on one hand. Strictly untouchable. Lamar's up number one. I got to go
for sure.
Hamilton.
Yep,
I'm gonna throw Linderbaum in there because getting
I would too.
a center like him is, there's not many like him. Are you gonna put Roquan on there? I think you might have to because you got. It's hard. He's kind of like the
Yeah,
honorable mention for me, and is Derrick Henry up there age wise? Because if we're gonna talk about age and put Derrick Henry, I gotta put Marlon Humphrey because I feel like the way he played last year, top five. But to be safe, you can probably count the amount of untouchables on one hand, and
for sure. Yeah,
that's just being. So it's like, is he untouchable? No, because if we're talking
no,
stats numbers, I think maybe Kyle Van Noy had a better year than him last year, and with with Chuck Smith, and I think a great reason that he's coming back is we've seen his development of guys. We brought in Clowney. He put in what best year of his career.
yeah,
KVN comes in 2 seasons, best 2 years of his career. Obviously not Ojabo, but I've seen things from Tavius Robinson that give me hope. Not as an every down guy, but as a guy who can come in and make a couple of plays. So if you can go and maybe swap him for a Parsons or a Keller Crosby, I think you got to take that
yeah.
opportunity and you run with it. So I'm kind of agreeing with you. Yeah, I think that name is on the trade block, and maybe we kind of told him that if the right opportunity comes, your time in Baltimore is coming to an end. And I hate to say, because
Don't
I'm a
be
big Oweh
surprised.
truther,
Yeah.
but yeah, don't be
Yeah.
surprised. Don't sit there and be like, oh my god, like the Hollywood stuff. Like, don't like. This is kind of building up, is what I'm feeling like with that piece.
Right. It's not, again, it's not the fact that we don't like Odafe Owe. It's just from a business perspective, you have to literally count on one hand, or you count on one, how many players are truly untouchable on this Ravens roster, and moves need to be made. Things need to happen in order for us to kind of get over this hump that we've been trying to get over for the past couple of seasons, and not even the past couple of seasons, since Lamar really came into the fold with the Ravens, always trying to make small tweaks and improvements year after year after year. Um, Painful playoff loss after painful playoff loss after painful playoff loss, trying to do something to kind of, you know, right the ship in a way, right? To get us over the hump. You guys know what I'm trying to say here. So again, all that to say, would not be surprised if Odafe Oweh is going to be out of Baltimore. Um, would love to have him back. Would love to see if he continues to improve. We would love to see him turn into an actual game wrecker next season. If he were to stay with the Ravens and really the quarterbacks and be a force on those third and longs and things like that. Like I want to hear Tony Romo and Jim Nance highlight this guy on third and circle him like, hey, watch for Odafe Oweh, watch him off the edge. You know what I mean? Like if you're not getting those type of like calls or looks, then like you're probably not a top tier edge rushing guy. I mean, it just is what it is, and it's a premium position. Pass rush and getting after the quarterback is paramount in this league, and we saw that in the Super Bowl. We saw that in the past two losses in the Super Bowl. Like if you can get after the quarterback, especially getting home with four, your chances bode very well to win that game. It is what it is, and our pass rush tends to suffer, especially later in games. We don't really have the same juice, the same energy that we would normally have in like the first half, thing like that. So yeah, we're gonna go ahead and leave that there for the Odafe Oweh talk. I mean,
Yeah,
cryptic messages. It's that time of year, right? It's
it's the offseason.
March Madness is here. This is the this is the season for that sort of stuff. But I want to go ahead and shift gears here to something a little bit different. The Ravens report card, right? So the Ravens personnel giving grades on the Ravens facilities, the coaching, all things like that. I'm going to go ahead and run down this report card that my guy Alex sent me just a few minutes ago. So these are different categories that the Ravens have rated the Baltimore Ravens team, the Ravens players. That is. So team travel, they rate an A minus, which ranked 11th in the league. Ownership, A, ninth in the league. Food and dining, B, 14th in the league. Weight room, B plus, 15th in the league. Locker room, B minus, 17th in the league. Training staff, B minus, 22nd in the league. Head coach, a B, 28th. Plenty of room for improvement. Alex, what was your assessment, your knee jerk reaction, all of the ratings from the Ravens on the Ravens?
It's got to be that coach. I mean, you're a back-to-back division champion, AFC Championship last year, AFC Divisional this year, a B,
Mm-hmm.
which goes to 28th in the league.
Yeah.
I always heard if not Harbaugh, then who? I mean, 28th, 20 freaking eighth. The only people
Yeah.
below him were probably um, the guys who got fired. Those guys,
Right.
Doug Peterson, those coaches that were getting fired. Um, I mean, that's unacceptable. I feel like that's just the only one that sticks out to me. Everything else, yeah, training staff that's not good, but man, 28th, it's just, and it's something we've been talking about for how long? I
Yeah.
can't think about anything else but that. B for a guy who's the second longest tenured head coach, or third, I'm sorry, behind, I think maybe second behind Tomlin. I mean, wow, makes you think.
Yeah. It really does. And I made a video probably a couple months ago here where I was reacting to the HBO Hard Knocks episode, and in one of the episodes, I think after the Eagles loss, I want to say, how just the players in the team meeting kind of looked very dejected and very
Yeah,
uninterested in John Harbaugh's message. And I feel like when you see grades like this, it's an easy callback to moments like that that HBO covered in that show. Because I've always said this: a fish rots from the head down. And it seems like all the moves that the Ravens have made personnel wise for the greater part of the last decade, acquiring Lamar Jackson, getting a stud left tackle like Ronnie Stanley, getting like a Kyle Hamilton high in the draft, Derek hitting him of the Titans. All these moves, right, have made the roster arguably stronger than it's ever been. To be honest with you, when you really assess the entire thing in its entirety, uh, but at the same time, the one constant has been head coach, right? And on top of that, we've seen a very, very similar outcome to a lot of these seasons, especially underneath the Lamar Jackson era, just dominating throughout the entire regular season. And then when the playoffs happen, we don't look like the same team. It's not even necessarily just Lamar Jackson. It's not necessarily just the defense who's not forcing as many turnovers. It's not necessarily this guy or that guy dropping a ball or fumbling or whatever. Like, it's a team loss. Like, it's a complete team effort when we lose a lot of these playoff games. And the one thing that I can point to is the fact that John Harbaugh still has his job. It's still the exact same culture in that Ravens locker room. And they say the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. And that's what it feels like we've been doing, just kind of running it back and running it back and running it back with Harbaugh. But we're in this very, very peculiar situation because, like you said, back-to-back division titles, back-to-back division champs. Like, we get to the highest of highs to the point where it's like you can't just flat justify firing John Harbaugh. You can't just flat out justify doing that because of the success he's had. I mean, you let national media tell it. He is one of the best coaches of all time. You know what I mean? Like, especially coming from that coaching lineage that he has. It's just it's a very weird spot that the Ravens are in. And again, I think it was very telling that the Ravens had ranked the head coaching at 28th. Like you said, only of the guys who got fired, the Doug Petersons, the Matt Eberflus, like guys like that. So it's just, I don't know, very telling. Very, very telling.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's the only thing I can think of. Now we're gonna talk about the other ones. I think the locker room kind of surprised me because you see it. I've thankfully stepped foot in it, but it looks very nice. Not too sure, what got that rating, but stuff like that, and then training staff a little bit as well because I feel like we've seen like strength and conditioning that compared to what it was with Steve Saunders, it feels like it's made an upgrade, but I think it was still a
Yeah.
B minus or B. So I thought maybe it would have been like a B plus, A minus. So stuff like that is, I hope that goes up. Ownership wise, I'm happy to see it's at an A. Traveling stuff like that is good to see. So
Yeah.
maybe we do get some improvements over the year, but man, that head coach is just like the big takeaway for me. I like I said, I can't stop thinking about that one. That's just my biggest one. It's like that big, just fat bump on your thumb you can't get rid of, and you just keep on looking at it. That's how I feel with that B for Harbaugh 28th, let alone.
Yeah. It just, something about it just doesn't sit right. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, and I don't know what it's going to take for this Ravens organization, for this owner to pivot off of a John Harbaugh, like he almost did back in 2017. I guess if that's what it's going to take a lot of losing seasons, and I don't really see us getting that underneath Lamar Jackson. You know, again, man, John Harbaugh, he can thank his lucky stars that Ozzie Newsome decided to trade back up, and get Lamar Jackson. That has really, really kept him in that office. I can say that with confidence. I feel like a lot of Ravens fans can as well, because again, he's almost out the door. Like, people don't really talk about that anymore. They don't really talk about that. It's just, oh, Harbaugh's a genius. He built a team around Lamar. He's done this. He's done that. But it's like, bro, we almost had him out of here. He was almost out of there. So again, we'll leave that there. I mean, the grades are, it's news, not big news, but we want to transition here into some talk about Ronnie Stanley just really quickly here. Ron Stanley, of course, left tackle for the Ravens, who is potentially not going to be a Raven next season. Hopefully he's, but according to Ravens officials, I think Eric Acosta came out and said that the Ronnie Stanley negotiations have been going on. They've been ongoing. They're productive, but there's been no deal imminent as of yet. Uh, we talked about it a little bit on the last episode of the show, Alex, how with the expanding cap room, it bodes well for having Ronnie Stanley, actually complete these negotiations with the Ravens and bringing him in. The question really lies on where Ronnie Stanley's mentality is at this point in his
Yeah.
career. You know, like, yeah, you can go and play for $20 million for the Patriots, but are you really going to be satisfied playing for it? Is not readily available to compete for a championship. Or do you want to take like a $3-4 million pay cut? Make 16-17 million, come back play with the Ravens. You've always been here, right? You're going to be competing for a championship. So are you willing to kind of part ways with that extra $4 for the year? It all depends on where his head is at, right? But where do you stand in all this as of right now? Think you're on mute. Wait, I think you're on mute. I can't hear you.
Sorry, sorry, sorry.
Yeah,
Um,
you're good. You're good.
I think I saw last year that he, was willing to take that hometown discount, but I have to respect somebody getting their money, and for him to come back from the I word he had and how gruesome it was, I'm gonna have to, accept the fact if he were to go. And there's a lot of teams that have rookie quarterbacks or young quarterbacks that can use a damn good left tackle. We talked about it last week. Patriots,
Mm,
Cardinals, Commanders, they have a lot of money. And if you give him 2 years, 50 mil, maybe overpay him to 25 mil a year, I can't get mad at him. Go and get your money because
yeah.
if anybody knows, how quick it can be taken from you, it's him. The week after he signed his $100 million contract, you know, leg or ankle gets snapped. Really not the same for 2, 3 years. So I do want him back, maybe that 19 to 20 mil a year. But if somebody has to overpay for him to get him, I get it. But it is kind of promising that we are having these conversations early, and hopefully we can lock him up back into the black and purple. Because I think me and you both are harping that our biggest priority, man, is just getting that line right. Because we don't want to see another, new starter on this line and kind of go through the same growing pains as we did last year.
No, that's a fact. That's a fact, man. I mean, and honestly, there's really not a whole lot of time for growing pains. And we've mentioned that before. Like, we are in a very, very finite window here that we're dealing with. And now's the time. It's literally now or never. Honestly, it was these past couple of seasons too, but this upcoming season, like, it needs to be all hands on deck. And I know we say that every single season, but the time is now. You got to strike when the iron's hot. The iron is as hot as it's ever going to be right now for this Ravens team. So, yeah, definitely agree with what you said there. Let's go ahead and transition to our final topic of this episode of the Purple Rain Report. Again, if you are enjoying the content you are currently consuming, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel as well, and make sure you follow us on Instagram at the Purple Rain Podcast, and use our code on manscaped.com. 20% off plus the free international ship. Okay. So, last topic, a little bit of a fun one here, right? So, Travis Hunter, right? Colorado Buffaloes Travis Hunter, the famous slash infamous Travis Hunter in a lot of different ways, has come out and said that him playing both ways in football is more difficult than what Shohei Ohtani does in baseball with pitching and hitting. Um, this has been a very, very hot topic. I mean, I've seen the arguments go both ways, very passionately in both ways. I'm gonna start off by telling you how I feel about this, Alex. I feel as though Travis Hunter is right. I do. Now, if you ask a lot of different people, they would say, "Oh, there's no way." I mean, like the sheer skill level of a guy like Otani and what he's able to do pitching and hitting, like to be able to hit a fastball that's going 90 plus miles an hour, right? And then to also be able to deliver that same fastball, that is absolutely insane. It's not something that we've seen really been done before, especially at this high of a level, which I totally understand. But when I zoom out a little bit from that, right, and I look at just the degree of difficulty it takes to play a sport like baseball as opposed to the degree of difficulty that it takes to play a sport like football, there's a 9-day difference, bro. I really do. And this is no disrespect to Otani. It's no disrespect to anybody else in Major League Baseball who is a supremely talented athlete. I'm just saying there's a reason why baseball players can play into their 30s and 40s, but football players, you can't do that, right? You can't do that. You have to be in the prime physical shape. And somebody makes the argument, oh, well, Travis Hunter, there's no way that he can hit a 90 plus per hour fastball, right? And there's no way he's going to throw one either. But Are we asking Otani to go catch a fade ball, in the end zone against one of the best corners, right? And then are we also asking him to defend a fade ball against one of the best wide receivers, against an AJ Brown, or if we want to take it back like a Megatron or a Julio, you know what I mean? Like I just, and then also when you factor in the fact that fatigue plays such a big part. You talk about Travis Hunter playing both ways, right? Like this is a sport where every 30 seconds you have to engage with another grown man. You also have to run as fast as you can, right? And then also be able to have the ball skills, the tracking skills, and all that, and the awareness to know where you are on the field, things like that. On top of that, you're tired as hell. You're tired as hell. I mean, like it just and by the way, you're wearing pounds of equipment as well. You're wearing a helmet, you're wearing pads, all of that. So it's just when you talk about a degree of difficulty. I'm looking at more from like a fundamental perspective. Like the game of football is a lot harder and more physically taxing to play than the game of baseball. So therefore, I would argue for Travis Hunter's take to be correct. But I want to get your take on it. Do you think that Travis Hunter was right, or do you think that he was not?
I'm gonna go real quick from a pure like just stamina and how your body's built. I'm gonna go he is right. Like you said, playing damn near every snap with very little just time for plays going no huddle. You got to be ready, ready, ready. I'm gonna go for
Yeah.
skill wise though. I gotta go baseball. I've never played baseball. To be honest, I played freaking wiffle ball and I still swing and miss. But what Otani does hitting, he's batting just like over like 275, 280, and then when he was pitching, um, which maybe I mean he did get hurt and he had to stop pitching. I think he's gonna pitch again this year. But what he was doing both ways was insane. I'm gonna go for a straight skill wise baseball, but for your pure athleticism football because he does get that rest in between innings compared to what Travis Hunter gets. Back to back plays and even receivers. These receivers come off the field a lot because they're burnt from running a route, getting back to the line, run another route. Corner, same thing. You defend a guy, you're backpedaling, you're running with him, and then you got to tackle. Derrick Henry on the outside. Uh, it's just hard for me to just pick one. But if I had to go, I'm gonna say he was wrong and go with Otani and the pitching and batting because I can't imagine trying to hit a 90 some mile per hour changeup or slider, curveball, something like that. I don't want to think about it. But they're both two insanely specimens of men. Couldn't imagine doing either.
Yeah. And when you talk about from like a skill perspective, if I had to if I had to like put it like this, like if you take the skill that it takes for Otani to perform the way he does, and the skill that it takes for Travis Hunter to perform the way he does, just purely skill here, not even talking about athleticism, physicality, things like that. If I just take two glasses, right, two glasses of water, and fill one up for the skill of Otani and what it takes for him, and
Yep.
fill the other one up for Travis Hunter, I would say that the one for Otani is going to be about maybe like 75% of the way full. The one for Hunter is probably going to be about maybe like 50% of the way full. But then add the athleticism and the physicality, and you take two empty glasses here. The glass for Hunter is going to be 90 to 95% full. The glass for Otani is going to be about 20% full. You know, so when you take the averages of both of those and you kind of mix it
I like that.
together, because
I like
at the end
that.
of the day, I say we have to consider both. I think that Travis Hunter would definitely have the harder job. Now, of course, Otani, he's going to go down in history as a legendary player, and Travis Hunter has not played a snap in professional sports yet. He hasn't. But if I'm just talking about surely going out there and playing the game, you know, I don't know many. Honestly, I just don't know many sports in general that are much harder than football.
Yeah.
American football, that is. Soccer's a whole different story because you're literally using your feet. I'll never be able to wrap my head around that. Honestly, I feel like it would be an even better argument if you took like one of the best soccer players in the world and you said like skill and physicality. I would say, okay, those are like the mecca. You know what I mean? Because like you're
Yeah.
using your feet. You're not even allowed to use your opposable thumbs, which God gave us to do everything. You know what I mean? Like that would be a better argument to me as opposed to like American baseball. But that's where I stand on it.
So yeah, it's a good talking barbershop debate, but
Yeah, for sure.
I know we can both just appreciate them both, which is kind of the big thing. But it's always fun to debate which is which because we get to see them both play. That's the cool thing. It's not the
Yeah,
what ifs. We don't get to say, oh, what if Jordan and LeBron, plays like we actually get to see these guys play in these eras and see what they do. So I'm hoping Travis Hunter,
yeah,
goes to the right organization, whoever that may be, and they utilize him correctly, because he's going to be, a superstar. It's like I have no doubt about it. I'm not going to sit here and doubt him. He's unbelievable. If you even watch him like in Colorado, he's the real deal on both sides of the ball.
for sure. For sure. Shout out to both of those guys. Said
Yeah.
again, we want to get you guys' takes and comments, your questions, concerns, whatever you got down below in the comments section. Let us know if you think Travis Hunter's job is harder. Do you think Connie's is harder? Let us know down below in the comment section and why. We want to know why. Like, give us your reasoning. Always fun. Of course, this is the off season, so we're gonna be kind of mixing in topics like this on a regular. You know what I mean? Having a little bit of fun here on PRP. Again, the lives will be coming back very, very soon, so make sure you stay tuned for that. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel as well. And like we led the episode with, you can follow us on Instagram at the Purple Rain Podcast. You can go on manscaped.com, fill your card up high to the sky. Our code PRP to get yourself 20% off plus the free international shipping. You can follow me on Twitter or Instagram at Sutton Def. You can follow this guy over here on Twitter at Simply10 and on Instagram at simplyas10.prod. Again, we love all of you guys. Thank you guys so much for rocking out with us during this off season. Like I said, the lives will be back. But with that being said, I'm gonna let my guy Alex take us out.
Thank you for coming through to another Purple Rain Report. We love you. We appreciate you. And as always, stay positive, test negative.
Yes, yes, yes. And never, ever, ever forget, even on the rainiest of days, to call God. It's been another episode of the Purple Rain Report. We're gonna catch you guys in the next one.